First of all, Graham, just for people who don't know, obviously you've had a very, really good business career and you've earned your cash, so to speak. But what made you start in horse racing and think that's a game I would like to spend some cash on?
It was probably my wife, really. I mean, I've always loved going horse racing, and when I was in my business, which was Sage, I used to go to the races quite a lot as hospitality guests and run my own box. But I always thought maybe one day I might own a horse, but it was my wife that persuaded me one day after a glass of wine. And my first horse was Lord Transcend, and he won his first 5 races. That was me hooked. My second horse was Ingles Drever, so, had a great start. And, maybe if I hadn't had such a good start, I might not have had so many horses. But delighted I have, because I've had some great successes.
And we see one or two owners with a bit of cash to spend, Graham, sort of buying horses that you think, why have they bought that? But you've been pretty lucky, haven't you? And particularly recently with your combination of Mullins and Nicholls, things have gone really well.
I've been very lucky, and I've got some nice horses. I've had some nice horses. I've got some nice ones coming up for the new season. But I'll leave the buying down to, initially it was Howard Johnson, and nowadays it's both Willie and Paul, and, they try and get me a nice horse.
And you could be winning so many big races in the season ahead. I mean, I appreciate we're early on. In a way, this is just building up. We don't know all the plans at the moment. But let's just start with one or two of them and see where it takes us. Let's start, say, with Felix Younger, who I was speaking to, one or two people in the Mullins camp who were honestly saying that this was a horse who could go right to the top of the chasing, and he really got his act together, didn't he, last season?
He did. I mean, he was injured for the early part of the season, and then he came out in a hurdle and won that quite impressively. Then he won the champion chase at Punchestown, much to most people's surprise, but I was delighted, Willie was delighted, and it just showed how good he is. He's always been a very good horse, he's always been up there with the best, and I'm pretty sure that Willie will campaign him over the 2-mile distances this coming season, and he deserves to be there.
Is it fair to say, and please don't feel bad about me saying this, in fact you can probably just disagree, but my feeling with him is that he's more likely to win the 2-miler at Punchestown than he is the 2-miler at Cheltenham. Is that fair?
The answer is I don't know, because he was injured for the Cheltenham. Well, he wasn't injured, he was ready to come back, so he's never had a fair crack of the whip. He was second in the Neptune 2 or 3 years ago, so he does handle the Cheltenham race, race course. But I think if he stays fit and well, and he puts on a big display this year, then there's no reason why he can't take his chance.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
He's going to be a good horse in all those top 2-mile chasers. Let's just change tack completely to a youngster, and again a horse that one or two people have said has been totally underestimated, Nicholls Canyon, who could, well, really is going to have to start taking on Faheen & Co., which is going to be interesting. But, I mean, clearly a very talented horse.
He is a very talented horse. He's not a big horse, and he's not a great walker, and he doesn't look like he's very lively in the parade ring, but, he puts up to them on the race course, which is a great sign. He won 4 Grade 1 novice hurdles last season, which not many horses do that. So it shows that he is high quality. Which route he goes for this season, at this stage, I'm not sure, to be honest. We're talking about going down the 2-mile route and taking on Faheen, but that's a huge challenge, because he's a great horse. And the 3-mile division looks quite tough as well. So I think you'll see Willie put him out in a 2-mile race to start with, and then we'll just take it from there. Yeah,
of course, at Punchestown he was over 2.5, and he went 21 furlongs at Cheltenham behind Windsor Park. Yeah. So I guess in the back of Willie's mind, he would love this horse to almost be stretching out to 3 rather than going over 2.
Well, I think the ideal race, from honestly, is the entry hurdle at next year, 2.5-mile race. But up until then, I think you'll see him campaigned at maybe the 2-mile distance to start with, and if we don't think he's up to that quality, then we might stretch him to 3 miles. But he's an exciting horse to own, and I think we'll just have a bit of fun with him this season, and at some point in time we'll decide the right race for him. But just talking to Willie recently, I think he's going to campaign over 2 miles to start with. York
Hill is magnificent in bumpers, unbeaten in bumpers. He's already favourite, anti-post favourite for novice hurdles at the Cheltenham Festival. I presume you just can't wait to see him jump a hurdle from the point-to-point. World jumping should be no problem.
It'll be no problem. He's schooled very well. He was an exciting horse last season, and he looks like a real horse as well. He moves so well. and he could be very exciting. Him and Belfield, were my two star bumper horses last year. So we'll campaign them probably late October, early November, and we'll see where they go. What their trip is, I honestly don't know at this point in time. But that's one thing that'll be sorted out by January next year.
They both run over 3 miles in point-to-points. It would be impossible to say, wouldn't it? I mean, presumably Willie will start them over 2, and if they need stepping up, gradually step up. That's
always the way with Willie, isn't it? He'll start with one distance. It might not be the right one, but we'll just learn from how they campaign. And I'm sure Ruby or Paul, whoever rides them, will have a good feel for whether we'll get the longer trip or not.
Slightly similar to Shane's Hill, who actually started off, I think, over hurdles over 2.5 miles. He he ran that cracker at Cheltenham behind Dovan, but is he one you can't wait to send chasing now? Novice chasing will be his game?
You would have thought so, but to be honest, he might stay hurdling. He might go for the World Hurdle route. That was one thing I did talk to Willie about at the end of last season. So you might see him campaigned on a 3-mile hurdle race to start with, to see what he's like, and if we don't think he's up to that quality, then we can revert back to novice chasing.
I imagine there's a slight feeling that some of the races at Cheltenham you sort of kind of know they're going to be really hard, but the World Hurdle, I'm not saying it's an easy race to win, but compared to taking on Faheen or Underso or Vautour over 2 miles in chases, the World Hurdle's sort of winnable, isn't it? If you've got a good horse, you're in with a chance.
Yeah, it is. But I think the competition's stepping up this coming season from what I've been reading, what I've heard. So, they're always going to be... Championship races are always tough to win. I know from Nicholls Drever's days, he was always, was he going to win it or not? And there's always a couple of fancied horses there. So I just would love to have another World Hurdle winner, because that was one of my favourite races. And we were hoping that Briar Hill was going to do something special, but he got injured. So maybe Shane's Hill will be that horse. It might be Nicholls Canyon. Hopefully by January we've worked it out.
What happened to Black Hercules at Cheltenham, Graham?
Disappointing. I think that the truth is, I think he might have been overhyped, because he won 2 races, but they're both at Cork, and he didn't win a Grade 1 race, so it could be that we just thought he was better than he was. But he's going to go novice chasing this season, so he might be much better over fences.
I don't think he is overhyped. I think this is a monster of a horse. He's on a line through Outford. Well, he's a big thing, and I don't quite know, but there's something about him that I really, really like, and maybe he won't live up to what I'm hoping, but I hope he will over fences. There's always been something about this horse, I think.
He does look like a chaser, doesn't he? But and again, he'll be out in the next month or so. So that'll give us an indication as to where to go at Cheltenham with him, if we take him there. I
mean, a line through Alfred as Obo, then he's not far off the same kind of ability as Nicholls Canyon on that line. I know it's a tenuous one-horse line, but if he really takes, I think this is the one. This is the Sun Alliance Chase winner, Black Hercules. Please, Graham.
Well, he ran a great race in the Champion Bumper 2 years ago, which showed that he actually does handle the track. And I'm not sure what happened at Cheltenham last year in the novice hurdle, but he was always destined to be a novice chaser, another chaser in the making. So I'm hoping that he repeats his Champion Bumper form, and then he will be up there with the rest of them.
Is there anything much for the old boy on his own now?
Both him and Boston Bob, I think they're probably in the twilight of their career. They're going to go the longer distances. We actually were quite pleased with his race in Paris in the Grand Steeplechase. He might go back there. He might go back to Aintree for the Grand National. Third time lucky, hopefully. But both him and Boston Bob, I think, that they need a bit of a longer trip nowadays rather than the 3-mile trip. So you probably see them competing in those kind of races.
And Graham, have we seen the best of Briar Hill after his problems, or is there still some hope, do you think?
Something, it depends on how the horse reacted to his last fall. He was coming back to his best form because he was looking like he was going to win that race, and then he just tipped up at the last and had another shocking fall. So it's probably in the horse's head. Willie says he's back in training. He says he's doing well. So if he can rekindle that spark he used to have, then he'd be a very exciting horse to have.
I mean, he's just one, isn't he, that he just shows you the ups and downs of horse racing. I mean, you win the Cheltenham bumper and you think you've got a great horse. I've got to be honest, the only thing I never, ever considered in the Albert Bartlett was Briar Hill falling. It was the one thing I never even imagined he'd do, because he jumped so well up until then. And, of course, he has fallen since, so you just slightly worry about him. You do.
Well, Matt, as you know, I've said to you several times, I don't get too excited about my horse until I've gone over the last, whether it be a hurdle or you just never know until that point.
Yeah.
So, but, if he was to return to his champion bumper form and he's in novice hurdles, he would have a good chance next season. But I think he's one to watch in the first 2 races he comes out in.
And what about, I don't think we mentioned Bell's Hill. Well, presumably he could go chasing or hurdling, I suppose. Well, he'll go hurdling, actually.
He's got novice hurdling, yeah. He's got novice hurdling.
Yeah.
That's the way we like it. Bumpers, novice hurdles, then hurdles or novice chasing. So it's a standard line that we do. But he could be quite exciting, because he disappointed in the champion bumper, but he got his act together for the Punchestown.
Yeah. And, of course, you had a winner the other day, didn't you? It was the old Simon Squirrel. The Squirrel one.
I've had 2 winners so far this season, one with Willie and one with Paul.
Yeah.
Simon Squirrel won quite nicely, so we're pleased about him. We give him some time and some patience. As Paul said, we're just going to watch the ground for him. He doesn't want it too heavy, so we'll have to pick and choose our races quite carefully. And then I have a horse that I bred myself that was very impressive at Limerick about 2 weeks ago, called Augusta Kate.
Right.
And she came out of Feathered Lady.
Oh, yeah.
Irish Yates, and it's owned by the Master Syndicate, which is myself and my wife, Alan Shearer, Lee Westwood, Chubby Chandler, and Anton Deck. So we're having a bit of fun there with her, which was very impressive.
That's going to be a party when that goes in each time, isn't it?
If we can get us all together, because our dives are a nightmare.
Put Chandler in front of food and drink and you'll be all right, I think. But just tell us, Graham, have you opened up the checkbook at all, Graham, as far as new horses? Is there anything lurking around that you could just give us a name that we could get excited about?
Without wishing to jinx it, I've got a lovely horse with Willie and one with Paul. With Willie, there's a horse called Invitation Only, which we like a lot.
Okay.
And with Paul, I share a horse with Andy Stewart and Jeremy Kyle called Copain de Classe, and we quite like what he's doing at home as well.
Well, there's so much to look forward to. Graham, look, we really appreciate it. I know it's early on in the campaign and anything can happen in their training at this stage, but it just gets us in the mood, and hopefully it's got you a little bit in the mood for the season ahead. Jump season, I think racing fans in general just cannot wait for jumps racing, top-class jumps racing. Absolutely fantastic.
I agree, Matt. I mean, I'm looking forward to this season. I've got some lovely experienced horses and some lovely new ones coming through. And hopefully, if they'll run to the best of their ability, then we'll have a great season. But as you know, I just love racing. I've booked my holidays around Cheltenham, Aintree, and Punchestown. So hopefully, I'll be there with some good chances.
Graham, real pleasure. Thanks very much for taking some time out for our little show tonight. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Matt. Thank you.